Okay, it looks like we are on the air, so I will call our meeting to order. I call our regular Richfield City Council meeting of July 12th, 2020 to order, being held in person at the Richfield Council Chambers. The first order is Pledge of Allegiance, so if all of you are able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is the open forum, and as a reminder for our public, the open forum is a period in our council meetings where people from the community can come and speak to the city council and share anything they'd like to share with us. They have up to 3 minutes to do so. It's not a conversation with the council. It is just a moment to share your comments. And if you do have questions, our staff will respond to those within the week, or they'll follow up with you, and then they'll also share the responses at the following city council meeting. So if you would like to, there's a couple different ways you can participate in our open forum. You can call at 612-861-9711 and submit your comments before the meeting to our executive assistant, Kelly Wynn, or you can email her at kwynn@richfieldmn.gov with questions before the meeting, and she can read those comments to the council. If you're here in person, you can also participate. I'll call people up in a second. Or you can participate by phone by calling our line, our open forum line, which is 1-415-655-0001. And then the access code is 2466-057-1675, and the password is 123. And that information is on the council agenda and on our city website. So we do have 2 people here in person, and the first person that I had submit a card is Karen Wolverton. So I'll ask Karen to please come to the microphone and share your name and your address, and then you have up to 3 minutes for your comments.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Karen Wolverton, and I live at 1001 Ray Drive in Richfield. And I'd like to share a few experiences over the past few weeks in the hopes that it will begin a conversation regarding the homeless situation in the Twin Cities and what Richfield can do and what I believe we should prepare for. I've lived in Richfield for over 14 years in a neighborhood near Richfield Lake. And a few weeks ago, 2 people began living on various business properties in the area. I am being intentionally vague because although homeless, I believe they are entitled to a modicum of privacy. 2 weeks ago, a very hostile and loud argument prompted several 911 calls requesting a welfare check on these individuals. After the business owners were made aware of the situation, they considered it trespassing, and the 2 individuals were told to leave the property. They then moved all their belongings to a park bench overlooking Richfield Lake. Over this past weekend, another very loud argument prompted another call to 911. Drug paraphernalia was found in the vicinity, and I was told by the responding officer that it was most likely crushed fentanyl that was then smoked. He told me that fentanyl is 10 times stronger than heroin. For me, this was a definite turning point, and the safety and welfare of my neighbors and my family became the highest priority. I wasn't intending to have a conversation with my 11-year-old son about what to look for on his walks around the lake, but that prompted that conversation. And I hope everyone understands how heartbreaking that can be. After several conversations with police officers and people much more experienced and knowledgeable on this issue, I have learned several things. Number 1, Richfield has a social worker. I was very pleased to find this out and wonder in the future if it is maybe best to contact them directly in situations like this. I learned that the system of pushing the problem out of our neighborhood and out of our town is not a solution. I learned that addressing substance abuse is critical in addressing the situation of homelessness in many cases. I learned that the camp closings pending in Minneapolis and the eviction moratorium ending will overwhelm an already strained system. The shelter system is stretched thin and they are beyond capacity. I also learned that naturally occurring affordable housing is lacking. I learned that Pride for People in Living has several facilities planned, but they are years out from opening, which doesn't address the immediacy of the situation created by the camp closings. And I also want to add that I think that safety issues apply to the homeless as well. One of the individuals told a business person in the area that they were beaten up and their main means of transportation, in this case a bicycle, was stolen from them. From everything I have been told, this will continue to get worse, and it is my hope that Richfield will be better able to effectively address this through education and proper planning that hopefully balances basic human rights with the safety of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing your comments with us. The next person who has submitted that they'd like to speak is Iris Graham. If you could please come to the podium, share your name and your address, and then you have up to 3 minutes to share your comments.
Hi. I'm not good at public speaking, so this is my first time. I was here last month when Martin Costello decided to leave us, and he's a very good friend of mine, so I really appreciate everyone's hard work and what they do for the community. So today I'm here. I had a whole agenda that I wanted to discuss, but I don't think it's relevant today to actually discuss that. I think it's more appropriate that we let our service members know how much we appreciate them. And I mean, over the last couple months, I can express and give extreme gratitude to the EMT members in our community, to the police officers who are patiently working with our mental health crisis that's going on in our neighborhood. As she mentioned, we're now taking back the community as community members, and we're stepping in because we know that our police officers right now are having a hard time trying to deal with the overflow of things that are happening since COVID, and this is more of a backlash from COVID, and we kind of, as a community, we understand that, so we're just kind of sticking together and really trying to make changes in the community. But today was just a simple thanks to say thank you. Thank you to all the hard people that work to keep this community intact. Thank you to the EMTs that are patient, and just thank you. And I am a business owner at 7717 Chicago. I own Selfless Acts of Love, which is a nonprofit here, and we are working hard to get mental health and the drug crisis underboard here in Richfield. So thank you again to all of our community members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And like I said, I don't think thank you is enough, but just to keep showing gratitude. If you have a service member, just walk up to them and tell them thank you. The same appreciation that you would give to our service members that serve overseas. Our EMTs deserve that too. And I think if we back them and we keep them happy, that they'll continue to serve the community with loving arms. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. And then is anybody else here in person who would like to speak at the open forum? Anyone else in person that would like to speak? Okay. And then I don't know if we have anyone on the line either, and we don't have any email comments or phone comments that were submitted previously. Is that correct? No? All right. Seeing as we have nobody else here for the open forum, I will close the open forum and move to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes of the City Council work session of June 28th, 2020, and the regular City Council meeting of June 28th, 2020.
Move approval.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to move the minutes. Any comments on the minutes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The minutes have been approved. Thank you. We have 2 presentations today. The first one is a proclamation opposing conversion therapy in the city of Richfield. And we do have Human Rights Commission member Mara Glubka here with us today to receive the proclamation. So Mara, if you'd like to join me at the podium, please. Hi, thank you for joining us. All right, the proclamation reads, whereas the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychiatric Association, and the American Psychological Association collectively denounce the practice of conversion therapy as harmful, and whereas a growing number of states and cities have recognized the harm that conversion therapy can cause and have banned the practice within their boundaries, including Richfield's neighbor to the north, Minneapolis, our neighbor to the south, Bloomington. And whereas the Richfield Human Rights Commission forwarded a therapy ban to Richfield City Council with an ordinance with a unanimous recommendation that it be passed, and whereas representatives of the Richfield City Council were presented with the proposed ordinance on June 8th, 2021, and provided guidance to staff to present an ordinance for consideration in 2022, and whereas Richfield is a city dedicated to inclusion and equity and will not let it become a safe haven for practitioners of conversion therapy in between Minneapolis and Bloomington. And whereas our LGBTQIA youth and vulnerable adults are valued members of our community, and the city intends to protect them from this harm and wants them to know that the city of Richfield has their back. Now, therefore, I, Maria Regan Gonzalez, Mayor of the City of Richfield, on behalf of the Richfield City Council, do hereby proclaim the practice of conversion therapy as unwelcomed within the city limits of Richfield and plan consideration of a conversion therapy ban ordinance in support of the LGBTQIA youth and vulnerable adults in 2022. Proclaimed this day, 12th day of July, 2022. So thank you so much, Mara, for being here to receive this. And that's correct. We did have, almost a year ago, I thought it was less than a year ago, a work session on this topic. We know that the governor has passed a statewide ban as well, but we wanted to show our strength and support at the local level. But I just wanted to invite you to say a few words if you'd like, if there's anything additional you'd like to add.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is really important, mostly as a message to kids, to tell them that they're not wrong for being who they are. A whole lot of experts liken conversion therapy to torture, and so do I. You know, Chris, it took a little while to get this moving. And I really appreciate that. The reason conversion therapy exists is that some folks believe that being LGBTQ is a choice. My own personal experience says otherwise. I don't have a single memory of my life where the role that I was assigned at birth didn't fit. And I have known people who have undergone conversion therapy, and it kind of wrecks them for a long time. And it really, I'm sure that everybody knows that LGBTQ people, and especially transgender people, commit suicide at a much higher level than the average person or people. And when someone is put through conversion therapy, that spikes to like double that. So it really creates hopelessness, and I don't know, it's an awful thing. My own personal experience is that I was discovered when I was 15 years old, and I wasn't put through conversion therapy. But my parents needed to get me fixed. So the avenue for that for me was Catholic Charities counseling. It's not conversion therapy. People aren't torturing you with religion, but it's still a rejection. It's still a message of rejection. You're not right how you are, and we need to figure out how to fix you. That was the most traumatic event of my youth. And I didn't realize it until I was taken through a regressive therapy by a therapist. And I just fell apart when that person led me to that event in my life. I didn't realize how much I had suppressed that memory. So please don't disagree. I'm sorry, I meant, please understand that this isn't a choice. Just please. That's all I got. I mean, it just isn't. That's it.
For
I'd like to get a
receiving
picture.
this. You want to, absolutely,
Would be,
sure. We
yeah,
can
that's why I
get
put
a
it in here right
picture.
away, so,
All
you
right.
know. Would
I'm
somebody
wondering if
be willing
maybe-
to? Oh, by the way, I was. Yeah, okay.
Hold on, are we? Go down?
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. The next item on our agenda is the Bloomington Public Health Annual Presentation from Nick Kelly and Blair Harrison. So please come up to the podium and join us.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I think we have some slides that are coming up. One of the first things I thought was helpful to talk a little bit about is the different things we do, and that also gives me an opportunity to introduce Blair, standing here next to me. So Bloomington Public Health, we're really proud to be able to work and serve the community of Richfield. And so there's a few different ways we do that. One of our main areas is, you'll see that we have a community health services manager. We did some org changes at the division level over the last year and a half to really better serve our community and meet better needs. So that program area coordinates all of our, I call it the evidence-based practice in the field. So that's where our WIC program is providing nutrition support and education for moms and children under the age of 5. We have our home visiting program, which is doing evidence-based home visiting, taking care of trying to get kids on the right foundation moving forward. We recently shifted our model approach, which is going to allow us to almost double our client base. We're very excited about that. We also have our disease prevention and control, which surged dramatically during COVID, and they continue to tackle different challenges like we're seeing with monkeypox now. And then we also have our peer breastfeeding program, and excited that, about a month from now, they'll be sitting here at well, not here, down the street, doing some celebration of breastfeeding at Veterans Park. We have our administration area, which is our management team, and we also have our support side, where we have our billing, reception, and then we have a contracts coordinator and an accountant. And then I'm happy to introduce you to Blair. Blair comes to us from, she's started working for the division in December of last year. We were able to get her from the Minnesota Department of Health, where she was running the state's operations for homeless response for COVID. So very, very fortunate to have such an incredible team member. And Blair is going to talk a little bit about the team that she oversees, the population health and planning.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor, Council. Thank you for having us this evening. So I have the honor of working with our population health and planning team. What that looks like for public health is that's covering a really big scope of services. So emergency preparedness, which, as we're all familiar with, is more important now than ever. We also work with our SHIP team, so that's our statewide health improvement work. We have both a SHIP coordinator and a SHIP community liaison. Those positions are both new this year, so really exciting to see that team coming together and working with city partners, really focusing on our policy systems and environment work. We also have our health and all policies position, and Kate in that role, again, is working with city partners across the cities, really thinking about systems change and policy change that can impact communities as a whole. Data analysis, so Kelly Works has presented incredible data dashboards through COVID and is working behind the scenes, making sure that we have data-driven decisions and evidence-based decisions coming out of public health. And then we also have an accreditation and assessment coordinator, and that's another new assessment. So Colton is leading the work that we do to really understand the strengths and the health needs across our 3 cities and helping us, again, just inform our decision and direction moving forward.
And I'd be remiss if I forgot our community health resource team. So that is a newer team on our end that covers more of our vulnerable adult or some of our senior health work. And then it also includes the 2 community health workers that we have doing work in the community. You all received a digital copy of our annual report, really highlighting the work that was occurring across the city and our 3 communities we serve. One of the highlights in that report for me was just the service map where we could see all the different work occurring across 3 cities. And a lot of this report focused on the 21 work was the massive amount of work we did with our partners. So it was amazing to be at COVID clinics, vaccinating our community, vaccinating our first responders, and watching our 3-city partnership work so well. Because we had staff from Richfield sitting alongside staff from Medina and Bloomington, vaccinating, whether it was daycare providers, school teachers, first responders. It was a pretty remarkable thing to see. I hope we don't see it ever again in my tenure, but it was remarkable to see how well our 3 cities work together to take care of our community. When you speak of COVID, COVID is still here, COVID is still around. This epi curve is a little bit augmented just because of the changes in some of the data infrastructure, but that really large peak is what we saw at the beginning of this calendar year when we saw our big Omicron surge. We saw a little bit of a surge in the last couple of months, and we've steadied out into a relatively stable place while we're waiting to see what the additional variants will bring and what those challenges will be. It's been incredible working with our partners across Richfield, especially Richfield Public Schools, and all of the work to keep our community safe and healthy in this process. We have a lot of stuff that's happening, and so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of some of the things that are coming that are going to be impacting the community here in Richfield. We were fortunate to be able to write and receive 2 funding streams from the state legislature for the infrastructure funds. So Bloomington wrote a proposal to do electronic health records work to revolutionize the way we do our community health assessments. So that was a little over $2 million in funding. So we got the proposal coordinated, got our partners on board, and Hennepin County agreed to step in to be the fiscal agent and actually make it happen. Later this year, we will likely start having some electronic health record data that we can get down to the very targeted community level, disaggregated by multiple variables for about 30 different health conditions. So that's going to allow us to do work we've dreamed about doing for years and actually see operationalized. We use some of our COVID funding, and we're able to purchase a mobile immunization / WIC trailer and a vehicle. So we're hoping this fall, assuming everything continues to work with some supply chain issues, that we will have a mobile WIC clinic that will be moving around to apartments and parks in Richfield and bringing the service to the community versus trying to get the community to take 2 to 3 buses to get to where we're operating. We're continuing to do COVID work. We're looking to have some additional community health workers and a bunch of messaging and supporting coming out in the community to really keep moving things forward Richfield's in a good spot with immunizations. We estimate about 7% of your 6-month to 5-year-old population has had their first shot, which is great. And we're continuing to see high 80% above the age of 5. That's about 84% we estimate are fully vaccinated above the age of 5. So that's a phenomenal number, well above national average, and well above the state's benchmark of over 7. We're jumping into accreditation, getting reaccredited. That's a fair amount of work that we're going to be doing, pulling together to document, so we're meeting national standards. We're also rethinking how we do our community health assessments, and that's one of the reasons Blair talked about having Colton on board, is we are going to be starting a different process with some of that data we talked about with the infrastructure, where we're going to be having regular conversations in the community and having the community help drive some of this work we're doing. We're making some structural changes to how we approach that and the data and infrastructure to support that. We have an interim strategic plan the division's been doing and working forward, and one of those things is mental health has been a priority from a health assessment standpoint, but it's always been challenging to really define how we do that with some statutory and other realities that we face. And we're going to be spending the next year and a half trying to understand what role we need to be playing more actively in mental health. And so that's a conversation that will be occurring here in Richfield, Edina, and Bloomington, where we anticipate having some clear direction of how we better utilize our role in that reality. And we're doing a lot of work on after action planning, trying to understand what worked well, what didn't work well with COVID. And I will let Blair talk a little bit about the project we're doing, operationalizing health and health.
Sure. So Nick mentioned that we had received 2 different funding awards for infrastructure and capacity building opportunities, which we're really excited about. He talked about the data work. The second project that will be moving forward starting this summer, so we received about $250,000 for racial trauma coaching and training across the 3 cities. And we're specifically focusing that work at the intersection of health and housing. And we'll be doing both some capacity building coaching for staff, so some internal work, but then also working with external and community stakeholders to think about how we do policy development, specifically in that housing area and considering the impacts on health. We're very excited about that.
Well, there's a lot that we're working on, and welcome any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Questions? We have Councilmember Supple.
First of all, thank you for all the work that you do and everything you're doing to make our community healthy. I noticed when you said in the upcoming work you were going to be defining your role in mental health in the community. Is that also going to be looking at ways to help people that are struggling with addiction? And I would like to know more about that. And we also just had the open forum comment about homelessness. And if you can speak to that whole area, that would be helpful.
Certainly. Councilmember Supple, one of the things that we are going to be doing very specifically on the mental health side is so statutorily, a lot of that work happens at the county level. There's other things that are happening at the provider level. We're seeing gaps in some of the prevention and connecting to resources. And so we're trying to really define how we do that in transitions of service. So we get referrals from police here in Richfield, also coordinating with the social worker that's on staff. How do we best interface with that reality so that nothing drops? And so that's part of what we're going to be doing. Opioid funding has come available too. So there's going to be some concerted effort across the 3 cities as we try and understand. We have a very unique opportunity, much like with some tobacco settlements in the past, where for 15 years we get to do some innovative preventative work to try and change some of that reality. And so I see them as hand in hand. It also corresponds very tightly with some of the work on housing. They're all interconnected, and a lot of the challenge we run into now is it's a lot of resource connection, and there's some gaps there. And so we're looking at, with sitting down with our partners, which means we're going to be sitting down with city partners, community partners here in Richfield, really understanding those gaps and then having a plan, okay, we see these gaps, let's figure out how we're going to fill them.
Thank you. That's helpful because, you know, we talk about policies and we talk about gaps, but these are people's lives. So it's human beings that are in those gaps. So I appreciate that you're working on it.
And I can sneak in and address the questions about homelessness and substance use. I really appreciate both of the comments during open comment that I think spoke to the need for stronger behavioral health response and addressing the need for affordable housing in the state of Minnesota, but also in the communities that we live and work in. It will absolutely be a focus of our work moving forward. We recognize that this is, if not the greatest priority when we do community health assessments, housing and mental health are always right at the top. We're seeing increases in both fatal and non-fatal overdoses across Minnesota right now. So a couple of ways that we'll be addressing that and opportunities to do that. There's opioid settlement funding that's coming to our cities. And so we'll be working together to identify sort of the most strategic way to do prevention work moving forward. I like to quote the Commissioner of Housing. She will often say, shelter saves lives, but housing ends homelessness. And I think it really emphasizes the importance of just an interdisciplinary approach to homelessness in our state and our cities. We'll need health partners to be working with housing partners, to be working with community development. It really takes everybody being at the table. And so that's work that we're committed to right now. Also in public health is convening those partners to make sure that we're not trying to do it alone. It will be much more impactful if we are doing it with those other partners. I think the other thing that I would just add, so having things like embedded social workers, partnering with homeless service providers, which our cities do, all of those are really important steps. The other thing that's important as we move forward in this work is to make sure that we have people with lived experience at the table directing the work as well. And so that's another area of the work that will be really intentional, is making sure that people who have experienced homelessness, who have experienced substance use disorder and behavioral health concerns are helping us develop the direction.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from council? Councilmember Troutman.
And thank you for the presentation. And for folks that were less clear about your vital role, certainly in the midst of the pandemic, we're really grateful for having you as a part of our infrastructure and our institution. And so thank you. I just had a question with regards to the outreach. I know immunization needs, of course, to be in person, but I just wondered if you had any thoughts about telehealth and utilizing services like that, both in the pandemic and as we return to something that's maybe more normal. Seems to be a lot of cost-effective opportunities to provide care. I know not everybody has access to devices that facilitate that, but I just wondered if you had any thoughts.
Councilmember Troutman, that is a great question. Throughout the pandemic, we shifted very rapidly to a lot of virtual options. So we ran our WIC clinic entirely virtually for almost 2 years. We are anticipating it becoming more of a hybrid reality.
Yeah.
Where we still want to get hemoglobins, we still want to get height and weight, we still want to get eyes on and some of those metrics to really make sure the kids we're working with and their families are doing well. Mm-hmm. But we don't anticipate it ever going back entirely in person. It's the same thing for our home visiting. So a lot of those visits, a lot of that education and support happened virtually, and we're doing some hybrids of that. There's a huge value, just like a lot of our school partners saw, if we're inside people's homes. We are there to take care of that little kid and build some parenting skills. And oftentimes we may see something of, there's a resource we can work with you on to address an environmental health issue. And so there's going to be a balance, I anticipate, but definitely it's part of our future.
No, that's great. In the mindset of having the balance being in people's homes and virtual is so much more dynamic and effective, and I think folks would be surprised, cost effective to a bricks and sticks approach to those kinds of services. So thank you for just sharing about that.
Thank you. Other comments? Nope. Okay, I'll just end by saying a couple things. Thank you so much for coming to present. It's nice to meet you formally. And I just had a couple comments. So you said that there's a health and all policies position that is new. I would just love to put my shameless plug and ask that position think about, if we're thinking about really advancing community health and equity, if we're really thinking about population health, Bloomington Public Health oversees the health for Bloomington, Edina, and Richfield. I see a lot of the three cities doing things separately around public health, and just don't understand why that's the case in a lot of different areas. So I would love for us to see the three health commissions come together to look at public policies around prevention and equity that we could be passing all together instead of, separately. We are a whole region, just the three cities. And I think that that's something we could be leveraging. And I think that the health and all policies position would be a great stepping stone to creating that platform and making that happen. I'm super excited to see the focus on health and housing. I would love to personally help be a part of that in some way. I would love to have a sit-down meeting with you and just connect on those issues as the mayor, but also as a public health professional that works in this area. But I'm really excited. And something that I've seen in relation to that, in public health, we really support community getting connected to resources or implement different interventions, but I really want to encourage with this health and housing work or any of the work that the public health department does to support the community members leading their own solutions and the public health department providing support to make that happen. We collect endless amounts of data. A lot of it is garbage data that doesn't even necessarily help give us the information that we need, and it's great to see that data collection is going to be something that we focus on, and we already know that we have the worst racial inequities in the nation, and I don't think we need to keep doing more data research to know that there's a lot of places to start. So I think just balancing, that data piece, which is super important, and saying we already know a lot of things are true. What are those things that are true, and how can we support community to identify where they want to focus. But I'd love to see a leadership component to that work, because if we do want this to be equitable, if we do want this to be sustainable, and we do want it to focus on population health, it has to be led, and those capabilities have to be built within the community. And then lastly, I'll say Richfield alone, there's a ton of opportunities when you think about health and all policies or prevention that can be worked on right now. So looking at things like the 494 reconstruction, which is a once in a multiple generation opportunity that we're going through right now. They came out and said supposedly that there's going to be no environmental impact and disproportionate impact on communities of color with that project, and we know that that's not true, given that the highest concentration of renters, 10% of our city, and a lot of our community members of color live right there where the highway is going to be expanded. We fought for a pedestrian bridge to connect that neighborhood of Richfield Towers, of Seasons Park, directly to pharmacy, to Walmart, to grocery shopping. And there's an opportunity to think about what do we do with that bridge, and how do we make sure that community is connected, and that's direct access to things around food, healthcare, physical activity. But there's a lot of opportunities now. We have Wood Lake Nature Center that is connecting our families, and so many people that don't have access to green space, and how can we build health and all policies into that work? So in our city alone, we have a lot of opportunities that are focused on prevention, that are focused on population health, and are opportunities that are ripe for the public health department to possibly partner on. So I just wanted to put a plug in for that, and I hope to be involved in any way that I can in support. You have a public health nerd as your mayor, so that's a good thing. And I say that mayors should be the number one public health professional in our country. I don't know that they are, or they should be, but really we oversee the social determinants of health. 80% of what creates health is in our jurisdiction. And so I really want us to be supportive of that, and I'm happy and excited to do so personally. So, thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you so much for your presentation. The next item is the approval of the agenda.
Councilmember Troutman, I move the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The agenda has been approved. The next item is the consent calendar to be read by City Manager Katie Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. On tonight's consent calendar, item A, consider a resolution approving the conveyance of 1710 78th Street East from the City of Richfield to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Item B, consider a request for an interim use permit allowing Minnesota Independence College and Community to continue to use the property at 2076th Street West for social meeting and office space for their community program. Item C, consider the approval of the 1, Memorandum of Amendment Number 1 to Site License Agreement, and 2, Amendment Number 1 to Site License Agreement between the City of Richfield and Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, which governs the installation operations of telecommunications equipment on the Penn Avenue water. Item D, consider approval of the purchase of a tandem axle cab chassis from Nuss Truck and Equipment for $120,000, $584, and dump box snow fighting equipment for Towmaster truck equipment for $145,000 and $532, totaling $266,116 plus taxes and licensing in 2023 for use by the Public Works Department, and authorize the city manager to approve contract changes not to exceed $10,000 without further city council consideration. And I submit these items for your consideration on tonight's consent calendar.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to move the consent calendar. Any comments on the consent calendar? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I just wanted to say the brochure that was attached to the item about 1710 East 78th Street turned out really nice. I thought that reflected what I heard in that work session really well. So I thought community development staff and the consultant did a really nice job, and I hope we have interested and eager developers seeing that work.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to take note of the conditional use permit, the interim use permit for the Minnesota Independence College and Community, and just lift up what an asset they are in our community. And for folks that don't know, it's a community that provides educational opportunities for folks with developmental challenges, particularly people on the autism spectrum. And one of the great things about this college is that not only do people come to Richfield, but almost all of them have employment when they leave, and many of them stay in our city, and we grow in great ways. And so to all our MICC alumni out there, we're glad you're a part of our community, and I'm really glad to see them every time they show up on the agenda as an agenda item on our agenda.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The consent calendar has been approved. The next item I will take, which is a summary review of the city manager's annual performance evaluation for 2021 and the first 6 months of 2022, held on June 28th and July 12th, 2022, as required by Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3A, and consideration of a resolution amending employment agreement between City of Richfield and City Manager Katie Rodriguez. Each year, the City Council conducts a review of the City Manager's performance for the previous year. The review considered the performance of the City Manager and the organization as measured against the goals and expectations of the City Council. Such performance evaluations are conducted in closed sessions pursuant to Minnesota State statute and summarized in an open meeting. In addition to the performance evaluation, the City Council also takes this opportunity to review the city manager's salary and benefits to make an adjustment that may be warranted. So I was just going to give a brief summary. One second. Of the review. I have it right here. All right, so I just wanted to share on behalf of the council, and I'll let other council members add too, but in summary, Katie Rodriguez, the city manager, has been with us for over 3 years now. She has been with us through unprecedented crises and circumstances, many now, and has also been with us through many staff transitions and retirements, and every organization is going through staff transitions right now. And additionally has been with us through so many great things that we've been able to see, successfully see through, whether it's been organized trash hauling or finally completing the underpass, or really pushing to get funding to revitalize our park systems and our roads and our community. It has been just amazing several years that you've been with us, and we've put that all into context of our annual review. But as we did our annual review with Katie, we felt that her performance was stellar. She did we all were pretty unanimous in our review of Katie's leadership and Katie's performance as city manager, and we're very happy with her annual review this year. So I don't know if any council members wanted to add anything, but in summary, we're very thankful for the hard work you've given this past year and a half, but also for the past 3 years and a half as well, Katie. And, you know, we're very happy with your performance. So any other comments from council? No? Councilmember Troutman.
I'll just say this, and I think I mentioned this last week too, but you've led Councilmember Rodriguez under extraordinary circumstances, and I'm very grateful both for your leadership and the vision that you've cast. And people maybe don't appreciate, you know, there are a number of jobs in the city and in general that are exceedingly challenging. And being a city manager is an exceedingly challenging job, not the least of which because you have demanding elected leaders who have community members that have expectations, and you have staff, and it's extraordinarily complicated, and you deal with experts, subject matter experts, in ways you can't be subject matter experts in all those, but you have expectations they're expectations upon expectations, and countless of important relationships you have to manage, and I'm very glad that you're a city manager and you have my full confidence, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Great. And I did want to ask, okay, so I'll read the resolution. I did have 2 points in terms that I wanted to add. Do I add that to the resolution itself around continuing her coaching and or her peer group?
Right. Mary, you can just read the resolution, and then in the motion, just indicate that you're going to add the additional points.
I will make the motion to approve the resolution amending the city manager's employment agreement with the city, reflecting a salary adjustment, and then adding these 2 additional items. The first item is the city manager position will be included in the upcoming compensation study performed for the city. And the second item is the city manager shall continue to participate in a facilitated peer city managers group.
I'll second that motion.
And I just wanted to add context to that. So City Manager Rodriguez has been in a peer city managers group that has been really helpful. We would love for her to continue doing that work. But then additionally, we want to make sure that the city manager position is included in the city's upcoming compensation study, so that all of our positions, including the city manager position, we're doing an assessment on it and seeing how we fare with our peer cities. So those were the 2 requests that I submitted. Other comments from council? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
So just to clarify, the version in the packet does not list the salary and is missing the changes to the item D. Did you want to read those too, or?
So do I read each item within the resolution?
Yeah, Mayor, if those items were added after it was in the packet, I think
Just
it would
read
be,
the full
you can go ahead
resolution.
and read
Okay.
those.
So I will read the resolution. Resolution amending the employment agreement between the City of Richfield and Catherine Rodriguez, City Manager. Now therefore it be resolved by the City Council and the City of Richfield, Minnesota as follows. The city staff and the city attorney are authorized and directed to amend the employment agreement between the City of Richfield, Minnesota and Catherine Rodriguez, City Manager, dated December 11th, 2018 as follows. Employer agrees to pay employee for her services on an annual base salary of $168,842.55, payable in the installments at the same time as other employees of that the employer are paid. B, city manager's salary adjustment outlined in paragraph A is effective on July 1st, 2022. C, effective January 1, 2023, the city manager be granted the same cost of living increase granted to city employees in the management salary compensation plans. And lastly, D, the city council may approve a future merit salary adjustment for the city manager following annual evaluation. For future merit salary adjustments would be effective immediately after review. Approved by the city council on the city of Richfield on this 12th day of July 2022. All right. Any other comments from council? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all who disapprove, same sign, sorry. All right, the motion has been approved. Thank you very much. The next item is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to thank the council for their support, their clear feedback, and for the goals that we're going to work on in the next year. I also want to recognize that I don't do work by myself. I work in teams, and I work with really talented and dedicated folks. And I include council and staff. And the mayor said she's a public health nerd. I'm a good government nerd, and it is a tough job. But I would add meetings like this to the things that make me wake up in the morning and look forward to going to my job. And that has nothing to do with the evaluation tonight. That was the residents that came and spoke so eloquently tonight, and working with folks that really are subject matter experts and present you with good information so that you can make decisions, and working with people that are prepared and thoughtful about the decisions. So I really feel honored to work with Rich, the special community. So thank you. Also, I wanted to respond to Ms. Onis-DeRosen, I think I said, asked last week about our Richfield Rediscovered. What's that? Yes, I was responding to your comments from the last meeting, your question that you asked. I can take my mask off. So the Richfield Rediscovered program, it requires an identified builder and buyer. Ms. Onis-DeRosen asked about the program and how many lots had we sold and to whom did we sell them to. And the program requires an identified builder and buyer team prior to the sale, and the home must be constructed for an owner occupant. The new home program is to construct affordable homes, and it's done in partnership with Habitat for Humanity, West Hennepin Affordable Housing Land Trust, and Greater Metropolitan Housing Corporation. I do have a list for you, and in the last 5 years, we've sold 13 lots for the Richfield Rediscovered program, and then 9 for the new home program. And then finally tonight, I'm sure you've been hearing about the new law that allows a limited amount of THC products to be sold, and cities are scrambling because this was a surprise. and there's not a lot of guidance in the law itself. And so I'm going to ask Jennifer to step in to provide a brief update, and then also Attorney Teachin has provided a brief for us on that. And while we're waiting, where we're at right now is actually Chief Henthorne has been asked to be on a working group with the League of Minnesota Cities to study what cities can do. And there's 2 ways that we can regulate it. It isn't specified in the state law, but it isn't prohibited, and we believe it's under our general powers. Okay, so we believe that we can license the provider, the sellers of the THC products, and then also there's a possibility of embedding it into our zoning code as well to limit where it can be sold.
Well, so I'll just, as I'm sure you're all aware, July 1st of this year, it became legal to sell products like edible gummies, hard candies, chocolates, seltzers infused with THC to Minnesotans who are 21 and older. Certain requirements are in place in regards to the amount of THC allowed in these products. There's no state license required to sell them. And the new law does not specifically prohibit cities from regulating the sale locally. So I think as Katie was saying, there are options to license these products, much like we license tobacco sales in the city. But there are some considerations that we need to talk about around licensing, application requirements, compliance check protocol. You typically get a report twice a year informing you of alcohol and tobacco compliance checks, failures, and the requirements that those establishments have to meet. How will zoning play into this? And then there are questions that HR needs to address regarding employee use, drug testing, enforcement policies, particularly for the police department, public works, fire, and some other employees. And then there's also a possible moratorium to just kind of sit back and study and watch and see what other cities do. There have been a lot of emails, I know, from our licensing people throughout the metro. There was a lot of discussion today. Cities wondering what other cities are doing, who's talking, how far along are other cities. Everybody's just really trying to get a grip on what this law is, the parameters around it. And so we've been talking with City Attorney Teachin and having those early discussions and the impact that it will have on the city. So that's, I think, what we know today. Mary, if you have any other.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. I guess most of what I wanted to say has kind of been covered, but I will just add that unfortunately the state law doesn't tell us much. It simply authorizes the sales to occur. It does not address one way or the other what the city's authority is to regulate in this area. And so I believe, and we've sort of roundtabled this at my office too, and believe that cities really will still have the ability through their general powers to license and potentially zone to address some of the potential concerns relating to these sales, since the state law does not cover that at all. So I think this is just a discussion that's starting with staff at this point to kind of talk about what some of the options might be, including a possible moratorium, which would put a pause on things to allow the city to study the issue. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I think kind of covered most of the issues.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Just to clarify about what the situation was prior to this, like Delta 8 was a similar product that was already widely available in stores. I don't know if it was age restricted or not. That was available for sale in Richfield previously, right?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on that.
Okay.
But I know there are, CBD came on the scene 2 years, 3 years ago.
Right, Councilmember, I think the difference is that CBD doesn't have the active, the THC.
Yeah. I was just curious if that was also age controlled, if you had to be 18 or 21. I don't recall.
That I don't know.
Okay.
I
So
don't
I'm
recall
just
that it was.
just a reaction to what I'm hearing.
Right.
I understand the need to do the age control, and it didn't even occur to me until you told me about how, of course, we do those checks for tobacco and alcohol. But at least my first instinct is I would not support a moratorium because this doesn't seem that significant from the Delta 8 situation that's already been taking place.
And that's different from CBD. That has
The Delta 8 is a
THC.
variety of CBD that has a similar effect to THC.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
My other question is just about our current zoning code bans marijuana recreational sales outlets in all zoning districts, and I'm just kind of curious what staff's opinion is of what that means for a gas station that's selling weed gummies now.
Councilmember, well, if I'm understanding your question, I think right now, any retailer could sell these products. There isn't, to my knowledge, anything in the city's current zoning code that would prohibit it, because sale of these products is not a use
Okay.
under the city's zoning ordinance. So it's simply now a lawful retail product that,
Yeah.
to my understanding, any retailer could
Okay.
legally sell.
Yeah, as I recall, we made these changes in like 2016, and at the time, I think we were anticipating the state law might authorize something like California with an organized dispensary, and instead, this is a very different situation. So, I guess I would hope in our future changes we would address that, and probably if this does remain available widely in gas stations, we should perhaps lighten our restrictions on the medical dispensaries because it seems a little bit ridiculous that a medical, heavily regulated facility is very limited on where it can go in the city, and yet you can now go buy this in a gas station. So. Thank you for your work on it and responding to it. I hope we can respond appropriately and with an open mind.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilmember Troutman?
Thank you, Mayor. I just was curious. I know staff, your bandwidth is at a premium, but our ability to be able to have a work session on this, just as a community for businesses that are buying or making decisions. I'm not wild about a moratorium either, but I'm just wondering what our timeline is from when do you think we could have a work session to discuss this? Not to put you on the spot, but just like 3 months out, 6 months out, next spring.
Not 6 months. We're into budget, as you know, so we've got a pretty crowded schedule. We have not looked at when we would bring it to you, so I would imagine within 3 months. Or
Yeah.
We'll schedule it.
Councilmember Supple?
Councilmember Troutman just asked the question I was going to ask, so I have nothing further.
And I'd just like to thank our staff for all the work on another curveball, responding to another curveball with this issue. So thank you for everything you're doing. I'm glad to hear that we're in work groups with other communities in the league. So thank you for keeping us updated on the issue. Any other comments on the city manager's report? Okay, thank you. The next item is claims and payroll.
I would move claims and payroll.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve claims and payroll. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Claims and payroll has been approved. The next item is hats off to hometown hits, and I'll start with Councilmember Supple.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with a heavy heart that I would like to mention that a longtime community leader, Nell Swanson, has passed away, and I'd like to offer condolences to her family and to pay tribute to all of the contributions of Ms. Swanson over the years. She spent over 30 years at the Richfield Public Schools, starting out at Portland Elementary, and then when that closed, she went to Richfield Intermediate School. And one of the traditions she had is she would do home visits for each of her students. So the health department was just talking about how important that was, and that was something that she did and felt very strongly about that. She was a mentor to so many new teachers, including myself, and over the years, and was an advocate for her students even after she retired, she continued doing a free summer school for students. And that she did that, I'm not sure if it started before she retired or not, but she did it for over 19 years. She was also really into history and was a avid supporter of the Richfield Historical Society. And she was just an amazing person that was always mentoring others and helping others. And so, as I said, I wanted to honor her memory and to give my condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I do not have any item tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple events that I wanted to lift up. The first event is our Urban Wildland Run. It's our 20th annual. For over 20 years, we've been having this run. It's a great opportunity to be in community and to enjoy our city. It's also an opportunity for folks in the city to be hospitable. We have thousands of people that come to Richfield to run in this half marathon every year. I think we still need volunteers, and so it's a great opportunity to see your neighbors. You also, if you want to run, you can still register to run. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to the Richfield Leadership Network, and they have a Hoops local basketball tournament that's coming up in Ward 1 in my ward. In Donaldson Park, they're raising money for Donaldson Park and for the basketball courts there. So great opportunity to come out and support your neighbors, see your neighbors. If you play basketball, come out and play. And I believe you can still register up until July 16th. So I don't have a link, but I think if you Google Richfield Leadership Network, it will take you to the link where you can register your team. If not, I believe it's July 23rd. Where we're going to have the tournament. So come out and have a good time.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman. And then I just want to let people know that Tuesday, August 2nd is National Night Out. So a lot of neighborhoods are having block parties here in Richfield, getting together with their neighbors and having potlucks, and it's a great time of the year. So hopefully you and your neighbors are doing something for National Night Out. And if not, join a local block club, and you can start one if you'd like. But also you can join any of the National Night Out neighborhood events that are going on in the community. All right, seeing as we have no other business, I adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.